What should you do in the event of a nuclear attack? We're going to talk about that right now. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Pilot Patriot channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to survive the fallout after a nuclear attack. Now, nuclear fallout may not be something that you've been very concerned about in the past, but with current conflicts going on around the world, it's something you need to start thinking about. First, I just want to say I am not an expert on this subject at all, but I have researched it quite a bit, and I just wanted to share that knowledge with you guys. Now, even though a nuclear attack is something that's on everybody's mind right now, I don't think it's that likely, and that's because of a little thing called mutually assured destruction. And basically what that means is most countries in the world that have the ability to launch nuclear missiles realize that if they were to do that, it's very likely that another nuclear missile would get launched back at them. And that tends to keep wars and conflicts from getting to that point. But of course, you never really know, and you should be prepared and have a plan for what to do if there was a nuclear attack. And that's what we're going to talk about in just a minute. But if you haven't done it yet, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit that notification bell, and give us a big old thumbs up. Now, first, let's talk about if you are in the blast zone. The effective blast radius, depending on the size of the weapon, could be up to 10 or 20 miles. And even if you're not in the direct impact zone, the resulting shock wave could level buildings. And if you are in that area, there's really very little you can do. There's going to be almost total devastation to that area. And really, the only option is if you did have some warning that it was coming, if you could get as low underground as possible in some kind of bomb shelter, get as much earth, concrete, and steel between you and the outside as possible. A basement, an underground parking shelter, or a concrete stairwell can be good places to take shelter. And that's really going to be your only chance. Now, outside of that, and which is going to be most people, and what we're really here to talk about, is the fallout. And what that is when you have that big mushroom cloud come up from the initial blast, all of that irradiated dust and stuff falls back down to the earth and just covers everything. And everything it touches is going to be affected by it. And that's going to be a much larger area than just the blast zone. In fact, winds could carry that radioactive material up to hundreds or even thousands of miles. You need to limit your exposure to the outside as much as possible for as long as possible. You need to get yourself inside and close off any way that outside air could get in. So that means turning off your ventilation systems. That means covering windows and doors with plastic, or at least taping the gaps with some duct tape or something like that. I did find a product that's actually designed to keep cold air out in the winter time, but basically it's a plastic sheet about the size of your average window that has an adhesive around the outside that may work really nice. I keep a couple boxes of those around, enough to cover every window in my house if I needed to. I will link to that and other products we talk about in this video in the description below. Another thing you need to do as soon as you get inside is to remove and dispose of your outer layer of clothing. Anything that the fallout could have touched, you need to get off and dispose of. You're also going to want to take a shower and clean yourself as soon as possible. Another thing to consider, especially if you're expecting other family members or anyone else to come in after you, is to set up some type of decontamination zone. Ideally, you would close off an area right near your door or in a garage with plastic where anyone that comes in can go ahead and get that clothing off and wash themselves as soon as they come in before they enter the area where you are. Having stored food and water is going to be a must to get you through those first days after the fallout. You will need to be prepared to stay inside for at least a week or longer. Most fallout radiation is going to dissipate within the first 2 to 3 weeks, but outside levels could still be dangerous to you, so you will need to take caution. Now, for that time period that you're sheltered in place, your regular preps, like your stored food and water, is going to be crucial to get you through that period. Most people don't have any more than about 3 days worth of food in their house, and in a fallout situation, that just isn't going to be enough. You need to be able to sustain yourself and your family, so having the things you need to get you through at least a few weeks is very important. Now, if you do need to venture outside of your safe area, outside of your home, you will need to have some type of CBRN or NBC protective equipment to cover your entire body. It will not be safe to go outside without these things. So we're talking about gas mask, hazmat suit, boots, gloves that are rated to protect you from this type of event. CBRN stands for chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. I have reviewed some of these products in the past, like CBRN rated gas mask and hazmat suits, and I will put a link to those right here at the top of the screen if you want to check those out. Now, if you or someone in your group is exposed, you will start to see the effects pretty quickly. You'll start to see burns on your skin. You may experience some nausea. Now, unfortunately, depending on the level of exposure, there may be very little you can do to help that person, but you can keep some medications and things like that around to treat some of the symptoms. Medicines that you'll want to keep on hand are medicines to treat burns, diarrhea, nausea, and antibiotics. Now, antibiotics can be difficult to get, but there is a company that does prescribe antibiotics for emergency use. That company is called Jase Medical, and we will be doing a full video about them very soon. You can look for a link in the description below. And probably the most important medication that you can have specifically for a nuclear blast, nuclear fallout situation is potassium iodide. Now, what potassium iodide does is it can help prevent the radiation poisoning and irradiated iodine from getting into your thyroid and eventually causing cancer. So what potassium iodide does is it basically fills up those glands with good iodine so that the radioactive iodine can't get in. Now, there are several different places that you can get this online, and I will link to those in the description below. The one I tend to buy is called IOSAT, and I will link to that. So there are resources for that, and I will link to those in the description below. You'll want to take that as soon as possible, as soon as you know that the blast has happened. It needs to be before the fallout reaches you. So ideally within that first 10 to 15 minutes after the blast has happened. And then for at least a couple weeks after the initial blast, you're going to be taking 1 tablet a day of that potassium iodide to protect your body. Now, like I said, that fallout that comes down outside is going to affect everything it touches. All water sources like ponds, rivers, lakes, stored rainwater, things like that, they will all be contaminated and you will not be able to use them. You should also assume that even your municipal water supply is going to be contaminated. Now, if you are on well water, it is likely that your well water may be okay, but I'm still not sure I would trust that either. So that is why it's extra important to have lots of water stored. I have done a video on how to store your water. I'll put a link to that here at the top of the screen. It's also going to affect things like your garden, your firewood, everything it touches. If you see that ash on anything, it is contaminated, and that's part of why you need to stay sheltered inside for as long as possible. While you're sheltered in place, you want to monitor your radios and stay informed of any broadcast that may be coming over to let you know what's going on and when it's safe to leave. So after those first few days, after that initial fallout has dissipated, you may need to be prepared to leave to go to a safer area. Now, the good news is, guys, like I said before, I don't think a full all-out nuclear war is very likely. I think it's way more likely that a nuclear weapon could be used to detonate high in the atmosphere and cause an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, that would knock out the power grid and end our civilization as we know it right now. But that's a topic for a whole nother video, so if you haven't done it yet, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit that notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. Regardless of how likely you think a nuclear attack might be, there is no doubt that right now, with what's going on in the world, that the likelihood is rising and that you do need to be prepared for it. But that's why we're here, guys, and we want to be prepared for whatever might come, whether it be a nuclear blast, an EMP, or just a natural disaster. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I definitely didn't cover everything. Like I said, I'm not an expert on the subject, but I'm just passing on what I know. If you guys have other things to share, please let us know. And don't forget, guys, I'm going to link to everything I talked about today in the description below if you want to get it for yourself. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. Stay prepared.